The first time I ever sang, I was hiding at the very back of the garden. I sang so quietly to myself, I could barely hear me. Because the idea of anyone hearing my voice was terrifying. Fast forward to today, I've sung on national television, performed my own music for the first time, and shared my love for music and singing with so many people. But what's the truth behind my success? When I was younger, I used to think success was about talent. I had to be the best at what I was doing, and I had to be better than everyone else to be able to make it. Then I thought it was about hard work and passion. I had to work twice as hard as everyone else, and I had to get exhausted to make progress. I couldn't have been more wrong. Because the truth behind my success, yes, talent and passion and hard work, they help. But the true reason behind my success is the support of other people. My teachers, my mentors, my family, my friends. Every single person in my life has played a role that's led to my success. Now, I'm born in Singapore, but when I was 4 years old, my family packed up our lives and moved across the globe to Denmark. It was a new change, new family, new culture, new friends, everything. But in Denmark, that's where I discovered my passion for music. Well, I didn't know it was a passion yet, but I knew I loved it. But I never thought my voice was good. I didn't think I was good enough, and I was embarrassed for anyone to ever hear me. So I do what many of us do when we're afraid or we're embarrassed. We hide the things that matter most to us. And that's what I did. For years and years, I hid my voice. I hid this passion I had for singing and for music. And I only sang to myself. Except for one person. The first person to ever hear me sing was my grandmother. I was over at her house for the weekend, and she always took a nap at around noon. And for an hour, I would go into a room far in the back, and I'd sing to myself, quietly. It was the only time that I had an escape to use this passion I had. One day, though, she woke up earlier than I expected. She came into the room, heard me singing quietly, and just stood there, listening. When I turned around and saw her, I was mortified. I was so embarrassed that someone had heard me sing. I thought that I didn't even have the right to be singing because I wasn't any good. But my grandmother did the opposite. She was the first person to tell me that I had a beautiful voice and that I had a passion that I should never give up on. A passion that I had to keep going with. 4 years after living in Denmark, my family packed up our lives again and moved back to Singapore. But something had changed within me because that small audience of one changed my life. I got into CIS in grade 4. I had big backpack, big dreams, and absolutely no idea where the cafeteria was. But the first friend I made at CIS was a singer too. She had this beautiful, angelic voice, and I wanted to learn everything from her. How she controlled her voice, how she made it sound so beautiful. I wanted to learn how I could do that. So we would practice together, the second person to hear my voice. She was comfortable to sing around. She supported me, and I learned what songs worked for me and which were, well, ambitious. Like never, ever, ever happening again ambitious. But Soon, my confidence started to grow. I learned about my voice, and I felt more confident. Before, singing didn't feel like something that I should be scared of. It felt like breathing. Then came grade 5, singing in the Rain junior auditions, my first musical audition. I had practiced so hard and I was so ready, and this was my moment. This was it. This was when I was finally going to let my voice shine. When I walked into the audition room, it's safe to say I was scared. I was terrified. I saw 10 teachers in front of me, 4 of whom were music teachers that I really looked up to. I remember counting all the musical theater posters on the wall as if they had magical powers to help calm me down. Spoiler alert, they didn't. And then I sang. Or well, I tried. My voice shook and it cracked and it was all squealy and high-pitched because I was so nervous. I remember walking out of that audition room and 10-year-old me told myself, "You sounded like a dying dolphin." Don't know why that was the only analogy I could think of, but that's what I told myself. And that's also what I told my grandmother later that night, that I had failed. That I never got that moment, and I never would. That I blew it, and I'm just gonna give up, and I'm not gonna try again. But of course, she didn't let me spiral. She told me that it was one audition, one failure, and that one failure can lead to so many successes in the future. And that I had this small thing, this small passion, and that I had to keep going. But despite that, I didn't sing for a long time after that. I almost gave up. Until one day, my music teacher, Miss Hughes, came into the classroom and pulled me and a couple other students out of class. And she told me, "You're in." What? Me? With that squealy voice? Come on. But I did it. Miss Hughes gave me a small solo song. It was a tiny, tiny, tiny role, but to me, it felt like everything, like I had finally done it. And Miss Hughes told me that she heard something in my voice, something special, something that maybe I couldn't hear myself. That musical was one of the best moments of my life, getting up on that stage and singing for people for the first time. After that, I got vocal training and I started working on my voice even more. My confidence kept growing and growing, and I worked so hard. And I had the support of my grandmother and then all my teachers and my friends. I got my first performance outside of school. It was a charity concert at Chimes Church. It went amazing and I was so proud. It was my first time singing to the public. I noticed, though, at the end of that song, my dad left the hall quite quickly on a phone call. It was strange and something seemed off, but I ignored it and tried to celebrate the success I just had. I didn't find out how terrible the news would be until I got home. That night, my dad sat me and my sister down at the dinner table and said, "Your grandmother's in hospital, and it's not good." That day, it felt like the world collapsed underneath my feet. 4 days later, she passed away. She always called me her angel, but the truth is she was mine. She was my first cheerleader, my first teammate, and the first person to ever hear me sing and support me. When she passed away, I almost gave up. I let go. I didn't know how I was going to do it without her. But I knew quitting wasn't what she would have wanted. All she told me was to keep going at the end of every phone call and after every performance. One of the last things she heard before she died was the video from that concert. Me, singing, with the voice that she helped me learn. So, now, before every performance, I say these words. For publikum, for mij, or for die. Which translated from Danish means for the audience, for me, and for you. Because the truth behind my success is I've never, ever done it alone. Every single success I have is shared amongst the people that have helped me get here. My teachers, my mentors, my family, my friends, my sister. I could have never have done this alone. So before you leave tonight, I want you to think about the people that have helped you succeed. The people that have helped you and not only celebrated your successes, but also your failures. I could have never have done any of this alone. And the beautiful thing is, no one has to. Thank you.